It's no surprise that the inflation rate is rising. However, what if you're looking at the wrong numbers?
When prices rise, it's only natural that people are concerned, but we believe that frugal people, those who are really wanting to spend less and save more, actually have a completely different set of numbers that they should be paying attention to.
In this video, we'll tell you the metrics that we are watching and explain how inflation is changing the way we look at our budget and goals.
Now you're going to want to stick with us to the end of the video because we are going to reveal a brand new system. It's a way of looking at each of your budget categories that will give you specific information that you need to know every single month.
Hi, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we talk to you about practical frugality.
Now, what are these numbers that I talked about? The numbers that have all of us concerned. We're going to take a look at just a couple of numbers that I found on the internet right now. So first of all, overall inflation has risen from 1.4% to almost 9%, and that happened over the course of just 15 months.
Here's what the USDA said about food prices in their most recent Food Price Overlook report. Overall food prices, and that includes takeaway, restaurant, and eat-at-home food, are up 8.8% from March of 2021 to March of 2022.
Now, just eat-at-home food, that's the stuff you buy from the grocery store, take home to cook for yourself. Those prices have risen an average of 10%.
Food prices are predicted to rise another 5 to 6% in 2022.
Now, in case you're wondering where I got my statistics, I'm going to make sure that I cite my sources. They'll be listed in the description of this video in case you want to go and take a look at them. Because I know that some of you right now are thinking, this is not my experience. My experience with these numbers is very, very different than what actually you just said. And we realize that. So we're going to delve into that and talk about why these numbers are they important? I think it's important that we know them, but there are some problems inherent in just relying on these numbers. A couple of super big ones right off the bat. One is that everybody's experience, their life is very different. These numbers are from the United States, and 25% of our viewers don't even live in the United States. So what you're experiencing, I'm sure, is inflation, but the way that is it expressing itself in your country and in your community may be very different than what we just said. And in addition to that, the way that inflation hits you is also different according to your age. We're getting ready for retirement. So like the markers we're looking at may be very different than if you are in your 20s or your early 30s, you're pretty newly married, you're having children, maybe buying a new home. What you're looking at, indeed, different than what we're looking at.
Here's the other problem with those stats. You have no control over them. You don't have any control over the consumer price index. So there's absolutely nothing you can do about the inflation rate. So if you solely focus on just those things, that will produce anxiety and fear. It will make you want to possibly give up or even panic.
Now, so what we're really saying is that budgeting is very individualized to each person. Now, as we go through this video, we're going to give you some specific ideas as to how you can delve into your budget categories and find a set of statistics that you actually should be looking at every month. So stick with us.
Here's the first set of numbers that you should be paying attention to. 3, not 6. What do you mean by that, Hope?
All right, here's what we mean by that. The 6 is for 6 months. Generally, Larry and I do kind of a deep dive into our finances and how we've been spending money and how that's affecting our, short, medium, long-term goals, the goals we really want to meet in that calendar year. We generally do it at the end of the year and at that midway mark every 6 months. That's the 6. But what we want you to pay attention to is not 6, but 3, meaning every 3 months now. We feel like stuff is changing so rapidly that really 6 months months is just going to be too long to wait. So plan to do that kind of deep dive into how your finances are doing. Plan to do that every 3 months instead of every 6 months.
The second set of numbers you should be paying attention to is 6, not 3.
Now, we just told you why you should do 3 and not 6. Look at your finances every 3 months, not every 6 months, to do kind of a deep dive. This is the opposite of that, right? 6, not 3. So what is this 6 and what is this 3?
Well, we had to break into our emergency fund just recently because of an unexpected car repair. So when it comes to your emergency fund, right now we're sticking to 6 months and not 3. So we're paying back our emergency fund as soon as we can.
So once again, our advice, 6 months fully funded emergency fund, not 3 months.
The next number you should be paying attention to is a percentage.
When you look at your basic expenses, we call this your bare bones budget. This is the stuff that you need to do to keep a roof over your head, transportation, you can go to and from your job, and also food in your stomach, right? That's the bare bones budget.
Food, shelter, and transportation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So write down those 3 things and then tally that up. The number you want to know is what percentage of your total income comprises those 3 areas of your budget: food, shelter, transportation. Why is that important? It's important because in times of inflation, what winds up happening is like, it's not just your food that's going up, right? It's like everything else is like inching. It's creeping up. And you won't notice it immediately. And if you started 2 years ago, being very comfortable in that margin of knowing, okay, I'm not spending, a too great a percentage of my income on those big 3, you might actually be a whole lot closer to the edge than you would even realize you are, just simply because you haven't measured those incremental differences often enough. So go ahead, do it again, and make sure that you know exactly what percentage of your budget comprises what you absolutely have to have.
Ultimately, this means that you might need to start looking at the extras in your budget. These are the areas where you have some headroom. That's the only place probably that you're going to be able to adjust for all these rising and creeping prices in your categories that you absolutely have to maintain.
Additionally, by becoming aware of what percentage your bare bone budget is of your total income, it allows you to have additional time to make changes in your budget that you may need to make. But if you're not watching and it's creeping closer and closer and closer to being very uncomfortable for you just to pay for the basics, then you'll wind up where you're out of time and you have to make decisions really, really quickly. What this does is give you a buffer of time because you're watching that percentage. Really important number.
Yeah, you don't want to be surprised and have to make a knee-jerk adjustment. Okay, are you ready to find a new way of working through each of your budget categories and decide exactly what numbers you should be tracking in each of them?
We're ready to reveal it. Can I do a drum roll?
Drum roll.
We're like super excited by this new way of looking at your budget. We have just started doing this and it really does help. This still has to do with the numbers, but remember, when we talk about numbers, we're talking about numbers that you can control. You can't control the prices of food at the grocery store. You cannot control the cost of inflation. You can't control those things. So we're going to look at each area of your budget that has elements that you can control and differentiate between what you can't control and what you can, and sort of turn it around a little bit so you know how to think about it differently. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Write down some of the categories that you have some control over. For instance, house taxes. You can't control that. That is a fixed amount.
Well, unless you're ready to sell your home, downsize, or move to another area. That is one way that you actually can control house taxes. But we're assuming you're going to stay put, and that means that that budget category isn't one that you're going to write down. Now, we actually have 3 really practical examples to sort of run through with you really quick to show you exactly what we're talking about.
Let's take an example of gas. Now, you're probably tracking your usage of gas in your expenses. Well, how about not how much you're spending on gas each month? How about tracking the amount of miles that you're driving? You can change that.
That's right.
And the average miles per gallon that you're getting.
Actually, lots of things that you can do to increase your average miles per gallon also. We actually did a whole video on this topic, 50 different ways that you can lower the amount that you're spending on gas. We're going to make sure that that video is linked in the description of this video. But if you're looking for one way we didn't talk about in that video, we have a special program coming up on Monday.
Yes, we're going to be reviewing an electric bike and how it can help you save some money on your gas expenses.
All right, so that was the gasoline portion of your budget. Are there other ways that you can think of? What other numbers could you think of that you might be able to track when it comes to gasoline expenses? Tell us in the comment sections. And remember, these are numbers that you have control over. Let's look at another budget category.
Another good category that everybody has in theirs is food. Now, not the current inflation numbers and not the overall rise in cost of meat prices. Instead,
now this may be a little bit different than you would think. Rather than looking at what you're spending every week, we are encouraging you to go ahead and look at what you're spending every month, because we feel like with the current prices going kind of crazy that what will wind up happening is if you find a great deal, you're going to stock up and then you're going to feel like, I just overspent that week. Well, probably for the month you didn't. Maybe for that week you spent a little more, and you should know how much you have left in your grocery budget for the rest of the month. But 1 week, we're afraid that with this change in prices so dramatically all the time, you might wind up like making knee-jerk changes to your grocery budget that you truly don't need to make. We just recently had this happen to us. We had a month where we really ate out of the freezer, didn't spend very much. Well, the next month we spent quite a bit more. And I honestly had this happen. I looked at the budget and went, oh my gosh, Larry, we're massively overspending on groceries. Well, then I looked at it over like a period of 3 months and went, no, we're okay.
you know, that's kind of like the stock market. You watch it go up and down, but if you're watching it real short term, you can get pretty nervous. But if you look at it long term, it does give you a little more perspective. Here's some other numbers you want to pay attention to, especially the category of meat, which is going up dramatically.
Rather than paying attention so much to the price of meat, which we all know has gone up dramatically, pay more attention, this is another number, the percentage of your grocery budget that you are spending on meat. That gives you a much better marker to be able to work with and think, wait a minute, am I really willing to spend, say, 40% of my grocery dollars on meat? What can I do to cut down on the amount of meat that we are eating, or maybe cut back on meat altogether and do a couple of 2-3 days a week where we are just eating vegetarian or vegan meals? Once you know that percentage, I think it does kind of click something in your mind and go, wait a minute, that's just way too big of a percentage.
Has the price of your favorite cookie gone up?
Has the price of your favorite cookie gone up?
They probably have. We don't really buy too many cookies. But if it does go up, you might want to take a look at that also in your overall budget. And rather than taking it out altogether, you might want to say, well, what's the highest price you're willing to pay for that item? The other thing you might do is, are there some other brands of cookies you're willing to try that might be cheaper, like maybe a more generic brand?
He mentioned we don't buy cookies, but y'all know we have this conversation when we talk about what?
Coffee.
Third budget category you want to take a look at. Once again, we're going to show you this whole new way that we are suggesting that you look at your budget and show you how to implement these changes easily.
Here's another category we're going to look at, and that's natural gas and electricity. Well, has your cost of energy gone up?
Has it?
Yeah, that's a pretty
Everybody's
simple.
saying yes. I
Yeah.
can hear them almost through the video screen. Yes, it has. Of course it has.
Oh, absolutely. So rather than looking at that, which hurts, really does, it hurts right now to take a look at those numbers. Why don't you instead look at how much energy you're using each month or each day? That you can control. You can control how much energy you're using, even though we can't control how much they charge us for it.
I mentioned this once before, and I got some questions in the comments section. I said, I go into the back end of my energy account and take a look at my usage. People were like, how do you do that? I'm going to explain it super quick. Most energy companies will allow you to create an online account. This doesn't necessarily mean that you pay your bill online. It just means that it gives you access to your energy bill and your energy usage. Once you do that, see if there's a portion of that website where you can see how much energy you have used. You can often compare it. We pay natural gas and electric together.
Yeah,
in one.
it's combined in one bill.
Right, but on the website, they're separate. So on the website, we can click a button and we can look at our natural gas usage, or we can look at our electric usage. We can look at them over a period of time and see if we have reduced our usage. Now, overall, we have actually reduced our energy usage. That doesn't mean our bills have gone down, because they are charging you a lot more in order to deliver the energy to you. But remember, the whole focus of this video is to not focus on what you can't control, but to focus on what you can control. So you can control how much energy you are using. Now, our energy company website also allows me to click not only a month at a time, but if I see a specific day in that month, I can click on that day and it will show me hourly usage. That means that if I'm trying some specific tactics to see if we can lower our energy usage, almost instantaneously, 24 hours later, I can go into that account on the energy company website and I can visually see, did this help lower the amount of energy that we were using during those specific hours of that day? That, for someone like me who loves a minutia of details, that is a gold mine of information. It lets me really dig into that account and figure out what we can do and what we are doing that is working and what is not working.
Let me give an example of how we use this in our favor. Our energy company lets us see how much they're charging a kilowatt hour for all 24 hours of the day. They give a graph and they give a readout on what they're going to charge us. So if we need to do laundry or something that's going to take a little extra electricity, we can look at that graph and decide what time to start the washer that will be paying the least amount of kilowatt hours. And thus we can save over half of what we're paying in electricity if we're careful and we watch what we're doing.
If you're finding this whole idea of changing the way that you look at your budget categories, if you're finding it helpful, do us a couple of favors. Make sure you click that like button. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm. And we want you to make sure that you are with us a week from today, because we are going to drop a new video. And that video is going to delve into 9 more ways that we believe frugal people can react to inflation. So it's going to be more of a theme on this topic, and it's going to give you a lot more information. So the best way not to miss that is
subscribe
and make sure you hit the bell notification.
You may not want to wait until next week to get more information on this. So if you want to look at a video that we've already done on 5 ways to beat inflation, we've got the video linked right over there. And that's the video you should watch next.
We are encouraging you, believe it or not to look
at the phone.
Oh no! Answer the phone.